What is up? My name is Tim and I am very excited to be speaking at GatsbyConf, especially because I get to speak about the Jamstack, and that's a thing that Gatsby does really well. And so my talk is called The Modern Digital Pipeline and how the Jamstack will change the world. But before we dive into all of that, I would love to introduce myself to you and also why I get to speak about this stuff. So, my name is Tim Benniks. I was born in Amsterdam, but now I live in France and I work in English. So if my accent is a little strange, that's where that is coming from. I work at Uniform, where I'm the principal developer advocate. And what Uniform does, we'll talk about a little bit later in the talk, but we are working in the space of the Jamstack, and Gatsby is a really nice fit to what we do with Uniform. So what is this modern digital pipeline? And actually, before we dive in, let's have a look at the image that I found. I was literally Googling for Jamstack stuff, and this caught my eye. And I'm actually a guitarist myself. I have been playing since I can remember. And I saw this product and I checked it out on YouTube, and it's terrible. And it's an actual Jamstack because you're jamming your guitar and it's a stack of things. And so that just works really well. And so let's go on. Let's talk about why I actually get to speak about this stuff. Well, first of all, I jammed my butt off a lot in the days. Look how young I was with how much hair. It's very different now. Anyways, now for real. I used to work at AKQA and Valtech, which are both agencies, right? We build big platforms, e-commerce, campaigns, things like that. And we did it for these type of clients. And this is not to brag or anything that, hey, I worked for these clients. It's more to show you that all these clients need the Jamstack. They need it yesterday. And while we worked with them, they were all struggling with performance, security issues, scaling, CDN, and all that stuff. And I hope that some of my ex-clients are watching this and that they might be inspired by the modern stack and how the Jamstack fits so well. And so let's stay in the right theme with the Jamstack guitar pictures. But what is that modern digital pipeline, right? Let's talk about what that is exactly. And so to be able to show you, I want to do that through sandwiches. I know that might sounds a little weird, but it's not. Actually, sandwiches are awesome, and this analogy seems to fit quite well. And the analogy is, we have on the one end the best of breed, and the other hand the best of sweet. And the best of breed, as you can see, is a deconstructed sandwich. And the best of sweet is a sandwich that is pre-made for you. And architectures nowadays have these two things going on for them. Modern architectures where everything is headless are actually the decomposed sandwich, right? You choose whatever thing you put on, and together it becomes your architecture or your lunch. Right? And the best of suite are the systems like Adobe, WordPress, all the big ones that is one software vendor where all the chunks are piled together into one big piece of software, the sandwich, that works for most people. And so let's talk a little bit more about these two differences, right? So let's talk about the sweets first, the pre-made sandwiches. So you go to a bakery, it's lunchtime, and you get one complete sandwich. And its design is curated for you by the baker because you don't really need to think so much, right? The bakery is great. These sandwiches are best for most people. That's literally the job of the baker. Think about a sandwich that most people like so I can sell it. And basically, if you buy one of these sandwiches, you have a contract with the baker, because if the sandwich is bad or makes you sick, you can kind of point the finger and say, hey, that's not a good sandwich. You better do a great job, or I might even sue you or whatever. Think about these software vendors, right? You can do the same thing. If you have one piece of software that does everything for you and something is broken, you point the finger until they fix it. That's a great part of having one vendor. The thing is, if the sandwich decides to change in the future, if the bakery does something else, normally it's kind of okay because the bakery knows what they're doing, right? With software, it's the same. Not everybody might like that, but if you have it, you kind of have to go along with it. And so in these suites, like I said, there's one system that controls everything, one person or one team of people that make that sandwich. And so like I mentioned before, we have the Sitecore, Adobe's, the Drupals, there's many, many more of these. And they fit fine for a lot of people, not for all. People like you and me, probably not, right? So they are actually really quite expensive. And that is mainly because the architecture is so much more involved. Even though it's only one thing, it has everything. So if you wanted to change one thing, you have to kind of open up your sandwich and put your own stuff on. But if then the software updates, that addition that you did doesn't work anymore. And so what I noticed when I worked for all these big brands that I showed you before, is we were constantly customizing to make it better for people, for the end user, for the developers. And we always got stuck. And then you need to do a big re-platform to another of those big vendor systems. It's just too expensive. And wouldn't you rather use all that Nike money to talk stories, making sure people love your brand, and would be so much more efficient, right? Okay, now it's time for bread, the best of breed or the best of bread, right? So in this case, you go to different shops and to create your own sandwich. So think about it. I need a headless CMS. I need some e-commerce. I need user data. I need analytics. I need anything you want. Digital asset management, a PIM system, whatever comes to mind. I need that front end, that CDN. And so basically, you are in charge of how that sandwich tastes and what's in it, right? And so the thing is, if one ingredient is out of stock, you kind of have to deal with it. If it doesn't work, that's your sandwich now. And so you better be a pretty good chef and choose the right ingredients before you buy in bulk, right? Because then your future sandwiches will kind of suck. And so the good thing about it is, if you wanted to replace the cheese and you ran out before and you wanted to replace it with something else, all good. It's your choice. You can do it at any time. And so if you need more cheese, yeah, I live in France, so this is going to be very cheesy. If you need more cheese, you just, in my case, I go to the neighbor and say, give me your fresh cheese, and I'll just buy it in bulk and I have it for a long time. But if it's around Christmas and you want to change the cheese into something more fancy, go for it, right? It's your sandwich. And so we call this the best of breed architecture. You choose exactly what you need, make a lovely composition, and have your sandwich. And also have a look at this image just for a sec before we go on. I found this and I had to put it in. So Slash is mid-solo, but then Bill is holding a dollar note, not playing and not actually paying attention to Slash. I don't know what's going on here, but it is jamming, but come on, guys. Anyways, these best of breed systems, you can compose with them and they become amazing things. And developers will love you for this because you can say, I need Gatsby for this thing. I need Gatsby Cloud. Let's put it in. Done. You get to choose. If you want a certain CMS, go for it. If it has GraphQL, connect it. Everybody's happy, right? However, content editors and maybe marketers might be a little less happy because they don't have one system anymore where they can just log in and do everything. They might have to actually log into multiple systems. They might have to ask developers to connect things up for them. So it's a little less happy for them. So there are solutions here. I'm dropping the uniform name, but that's for later. So how does the Jamstack fit in this digital pipeline now? Well, the thing is, if you have all these separate headless sources, there is no more origin server in the middle that controls everything. Like in these other systems, there's one server or maybe a couple in the middle. You hit a request, it starts thinking a lot, talking to other systems, and then it spits out at runtime a page that it renders. Well, this is generally quite slow. Also, if that server gets attacked by a hacker, you're kind of screwed. And so there is no more origin if everything is API first and you work on the CDN. All the magic is happening on the CDN now. And so if you think about it, no more origin. Everything is on the CDN. Jamstack is just like 1 + 1 is 11, literally, right? The Jamstack is just, it fits so well for this modern stuff. And so everything is now API first. And because of this, there's actually not really an architectural blueprint. Like if some of you now come to me and say, hey, I have this brand and I need to do this and this, what is the architecture you choose? My answer will be anything, whatever you want, run with it, right? So there's not really a blueprint here, like the other systems where you needed Java and this server, and like you kind of have all the choice. And right, because of that choice, it also becomes slightly more complex. And because of this, new product categories are emerging. Like how do you orchestrate everything and make good choices and connect it up? That's where Uniform comes in. We'll talk about that in a sec. And so all the technology has been maturing. All the developers have been maturing. Everybody's more happy in that whole field. But these issues that I just spoke about, like limitless choice, having all these different systems together, the issues kind of remain, right? And so especially with people handoff, like how does a content editor speak to a developer when they kind of, like that's challenging. Like we've had it before where I said, okay, I'm going to make a new campaign with a landing page and I have 5 products. I have CMS A with general content about whatever global stuff, and maybe local content from a different CMS. So there's multiple sources, and maybe I want to know who this user is and do personalization across these sources. Well, that's pretty challenging in a Jamstack site, right? Because this person now has to talk to the developer and say, okay, can you connect up these things for me in one page and then render it, please? And the developer generally says, nope, I don't have time. Like, why would you want this? You just had a new website. And so there's a bit of frustration there, right? And so you're dealing with these multiple sources that have to come together at one point, which is the build in your Jamstack site. And maybe you have 1 million of these. So you have some generation issues, like how much time does it take? Of course, we know Gatsby Cloud will be able to help you there, but we'll get there. And then how it all connects in the front end. How tightly coupled does it get? Right, so we have all these modern tools, but we don't really have a platform to help you to move it all to the future, right? And so this is that time where I want to talk about what is the next step for Jamstack. What kind of systems do we need to do this at scale for huge brands? Well, pure magic. Generally, if you use the cloud, a lot will be solved, right? You can do incremental builds. You can do really good preview with Gatsby Cloud. You'll have serverless functions and you will have edge handlers. And these guys make it so that at the edge where the website is served, you can actually do super performant dynamic things as well, right? And so it will help you to not just make static sites, but also more dynamic things. And so now that we spoke about all these things, it's now kind of time of where Uniform is coming in. Because what we need is a platform that helps you orchestrate these things, but without a center of the universe, right? It shouldn't have like the old system where the CMS is in the middle and everything connects into it. That doesn't work anymore. And so this platform that you need needs to be completely opinionless, because you cannot say you have to use Next.js or Nuxt for this. No, developers will not like you, right? You want to choose Gatsby, so there you go. So no vendor lock-in, no roadmap constraints, and you need total freedom and an SDK that helps you to change things up without too much code, and everything should be easy to do. And so, in my opinion, this is an amazing approach, right? You add all these headless systems that you want, and then you can compose with them in a no-code interface. You can literally drag around and point to different sources without having to be logged in. And so all these content editors can kind of deal with that. And then, of course, it goes into Gatsby or your framework of choice. And then you have a live preview of that composition that you just made on your production code. And then if it's all good, you hit publish and it goes on to the CDN to live forever. And now everybody in the chain is happy because marketers can actually make their own compositions. You can make custom integrations for that. So you can have some obscure APIs that just plug in. And then you don't really have to be a developer to do all the things anymore. And if you have the right SDK on the front end in Gatsby, maybe a good source plugin that can deal with whatever compositions come in and map the data from the compositions to your components, you can change out an integration and that mapping of the data remains the same. So everybody happy, hopefully. right? And so this is where uniform comes in. And if you're interested in how we get that to work, feel free to reach out. You can go to the website or reach me at Twitter at Tim Benniks, and we can chat about it. And that's all I wanted to talk about. And if you liked what you see, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I talk about this stuff quite a bit. And I just got this new studio, so I'm about to make a video on how this was all built. So if you're like that kind of thing, feel free to subscribe. You don't have to, obviously. Anyways, that was it. Have fun at the rest of the conference, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.
Don't miss the live Q&A coming up now.